You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Didn't you coach Burt Reynolds?
Yes, I did.
Was he any good?
He was a defensive back.
I know. Was he any good? I said.
103.9 FM LI News Radio presents The Weekend Crunch with Errol Marks and Josh Silverberg.
Hello, Long Island, New York, and around the country. This is The Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Mr. Errol Marks. Yes, that's me, the one and only, and no Joshua Silverberg again this week. He's working and moving his mother-in-law into our new apartment. So you know who I have? Like always, the great and powerful Speedy Petey. What's going on, Speedy?
Well, I was surprisingly the life of a party a little bit on with your birthday.
You were one of them, that's for damn sure.
I'm surprised how much of a hit I was with your friends and your DJ pals and all that.
Yes, it was a great time, and we will get into that in just 1 second. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports E-Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Yes, we had my boat, I guess you could say my boat party, my boat bash, my boat trip. It was a 3-hour party on the Sound. Great people, I would say about 70, 75 people showed up to the party. It was a huge boat on the Nautica Mile. It was great. It really was. Everybody had a good time. All my friends, some of my family members. It was a real hoot. That's for damn sure. But you, by the way, my friend, were dancing and prancing or whatever. You know, like what Clive Frazier says. He's dangling and pangling or whatever the heck you want to say. That'll be my words. It doesn't make any sense. It's not.
A couple of your friends had very cool shirts that looked like the jackets like Frazier would wear.
Well, I will say this: nobody knows how to dress like me. But that's
fair.
I will say this: it was a great time. I'd like to thank everybody that showed up to my party and really put the time and effort into building it and putting the time into making it happen. So thank you to all the people that came out and celebrated my 39th birthday. So I'm getting up there. I'm going to be 40 years old very, very soon. So I'm hoping that 40 is the new 30. And I feel good. My neck surgery has went well, and I feel a lot more stronger, a lot more better as the days go by. So thank you to Physical Therapy of Smithtown, John, who does a great job on working me out and getting my body strong again. And the doctor, Dr. Faust and Orland and Cohen, they did a very, very good job. So I'm going to give you a little bit more respect on this show so you can get out there and people get to know you guys. So thank you. So I want to get into the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are right around the corner on making the playoffs, and they are making the playoffs. They clinched the playoff spot the other day when the Celtics lost. So now they're just fighting where they're going to end up. Are they going to end up at 4th, 5th, or 6th? If they end up at 6th, they'll be playing the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. That's a harder opponent that they would have to play, except if you go as the 4th or 5th seed, you'd be going against Atlanta. So I think, or even Miami. Right. So
who just lost Oladipo.
Absolutely. Even though I think Miami's playing the best basketball they've played all season long, and everybody expected them to figure things out. This is a team that went all the way to the NBA championship last year. Jimmy Butler's figuring it out, and I think they're getting healthier and healthier. And that's now you're seeing the greatness of what this team could be and how dangerous they could be in the Eastern Conference. But the New York Knicks, it's so interesting, because over the last couple of years, Speedy, we talk about where's their superstar, who's their guy, who's the guy that they're going to depend on in the big point of the game. And I think over the last 2 years, and really this past years, we figured out who the number one guy is. It's Julius Randle. He's a team leader. It's pretty damn amazing what this guy has done for the New York Knicks. And he's put the New York Knicks back on the map. Now you hear Stephen A. Smith. You hear the talk of the town is the New York Knicks. It's not the Brooklyn Nets anymore. It's the Knicks. And because the Knicks are New York basketball. The Brooklyn Nets, that they came from New Jersey. I know a lot of people say, well, they came from Long Island first, but they've been in New Jersey for over 20 some odd years. So they come back to Brooklyn. They're not taking away the New York Knicks fans. The New York Knicks fans are dedicated to their team. And now, finally, they have good basketball. RJ Barrett's becoming a star. You're seeing that the ability that this kid has and what he can do, and he can take over a game. I think when you look at the Knicks, not only are they young and they have semi-veterans on the team, this is a team that believes in one another. They play team defense. They're the number one defense in all of the NBA. And they have a great coach, a guy that demands hard work and dedication to the game, and that's Tom Thibodeau, who I believe is the coach of the year, Speedy.
Yeah, the Knicks are kind of playing that counterculture type of team where you're seeing fast-paced teams now succeed in the NBA with high-potent offenses, three-point shooting. And the Knicks are kind of different where they have the defense, number one defense in the NBA in a lot of statistical categories. They're top 5 in several others. And their pace is not really as strong. But we've seen teams succeed with that. Look at the Spurs teams. The Spurs had that consecutive seasons where they made it all the time, but their pace a lot of the time was below average. And the Knicks are kind of adopting that. They're efficient. Julius Randle obviously can force the ball at times, but still has been a lot more efficient than we've seen. Barrett's been a lot more efficient. And certain guys have stepped up. I always love that with teams. When other guys go cold, other guys step up. Now, the Knicks' depth on paper, definitely better than it was, but it's still not great on paper. But when Derrick Rose has surged in the end of the season, Nerlens Noel, when Robinson got hurt, has stepped up. And just these guys have played well. These veteran guys have had their moments, and that's a big key for the Knicks, where they don't have to just rely on one bench guy or certain bench guys to really do it all.
Speaking of Derrick Rose, he has been fighting hamstring problems, but I think he's going to be ready for the playoffs. He has been a big help on the growth of Obi Toppin, the growth of Kevin Knox, the growth of R.J. Barrett, the growth of Emmanuel Quigley. You see what he has done as he's become a leader of this team. You talk about leadership. Derrick Rose, in the last 10 games, has averaged 19 points a game. He's been so much of the old Derrick Rose. He's not as explosive as he was when he played for the Chicago Bulls, but when he needs to take up the pace or pick up the pace, he builds the pace up and down the court. I think this team is absolutely capable of going in the first round and winning the first round. It doesn't matter who they play. Playing Milwaukee, playing Atlanta. I think they match up very well against Milwaukee. I think they match up very, very well against Atlanta. I don't think they as of right now on paper, match up very well against Miami. Maybe because of their ability to do the things that they can in the paint. I still think that if Robinson does come back, and I don't know if he'll be back in the first round. He'll probably be back in the second round. Right. I think you can absolutely compete with some of these other teams like the 76ers and even the Brooklyn Nets, who I think are very highly overrated. Now, I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm not saying that they can't win a championship this year with Kyrie Irving and James Harden and Kevin Durant and obviously Blake Griffin. I mean, they've got a bunch of stars on this team. What scares me is their bench play. I don't know if this bench play is going to actually play to the depth that a lot of these NBA teams are going to need moving forward in the playoffs. When you're playing back-to-back games in the playoffs, when you have to play one night after the other, it's a lot of pressure on your knees. It's a lot of pressure on your whole body, and you're going through series after series after series. I don't know if this Brooklyn Nets team is going to be able to hold up. First of all, Kevin Durant has been fighting injury all year. Kyrie Irving, sometimes we wonder if his head's in the game. And then James Harden, he hasn't been healthy all season long. So this is a team that hasn't been healthy all season long. And I'm not saying they can't win. I think they're absolutely the favorites coming out of the Eastern Conference, as well as the Lakers coming out of the Western Conference. And to me, it would be great to watch Kevin Durant versus LeBron James in a championship. But I want to see some surprises, and I want to see like the Portland Trailblazers. I would like to see the Phoenix Suns, who might be matched up against the Lakers in the first round. I want to see these teams develop and become the teams that we thought they were going to be with the great players like Devin Booker or DeAndre Ayton. Or you go on the other side in the Eastern Conference, we talk about the 76ers, the Joel Embiids and the Ben Simmons, or the Harrises. So I want to see these teams actually develop, Speedy, and show what they're capable of doing, what they're made of.
Yeah, the Western Conference has gotten stronger at the top even more with Utah, the depth that they have as well. Phoenix, you talked about with the depth that they have with their young players, and even some of the veterans, guys like Jay Crowder that have stepped up and been a significant role on that team too. And going back to the Nets, the one scenario that we didn't bring up yet is the Nets could actually still end up being the 3 seed and play the Knicks in the first round if they're the 6.
I don't want to see that.
Which I don't either, but again, it would be something interesting to fuel the New York rivalry. I don't think the Knicks would beat the Nets by any means, but I think that could be the one scenario where that defense could expose the Nets to an extent, and maybe then say, all right, we're going to take some of these concepts and then expose with a more talented team like a Milwaukee later, or Miami, even if they're the same pesky defensive identity that they were last year. So
interesting.
That definitely would create some rivalry aspect, though. I still wouldn't mind seeing that, even though I don't think the Knicks would win. I think the Knicks could make it close in some games, maybe make it a 6-game series or something like that, but I don't think they would actually win.
They could go 7. I think the Knicks can go a 7-game
I think
series.
if they do push it to 7, I think the Knicks win, because the Nets have all the pressure on them at that point.
I don't know. I still think that under pressure, you have Kevin Durant to shoot the pressure shots. You have Kyrie Irving. You have guys that can hit game-winning shots. We've seen them do it. So, and they're quite capable of competing with all the best teams, especially when it comes down to crunch time. But there is somebody I want to talk about, and that's Marv Albert. And today, actually it was yesterday, there was a story coming out from TNT that Marv Albert is retiring. And Marv Albert, he's been the voice of basketball. He's been the voice of the New York Knicks in the 90s. If anybody remembers, yes, every time they would score, to me, Marv Albert is not only a god in broadcasting, he's a guy that you have to look up to. You have to come to respect. And unfortunately, after almost a 50, 60-year career, he's going to part ways and he's going to retire. I mean, his son has been really dedicated to the business, and he's become a very big broadcaster in the business. And Marv Albert has really been the face of what you expect a broadcaster to be: enthusiastic, personality, just who he is as a person. Really significantly shows you what Marv Albert is and what Marv Albert is and could be for other people when they want to get into the business. So to me, the face of what basketball voices should be is Marv Albert. The face of what football should be is Ian Eagle. And that's two guys that I've come to respect. I know both of them. I've met Marv Albert a couple of times. Very gracious. Had a conversation with him a little bit about the NBA and the Knicks. This was a couple of years ago. I think it was when the Knicks were a borderline playoff team with Carmelo Anthony, if you remember. And they did make the playoffs when they scored. They won 54 games.
Yeah,
but
Melo won the scoring title.
Yes, but that's not when I met him. I think I met him a year after that.
Yeah, they just missed the playoffs that year.
And
they were the first team out.
And I had a long conversation with Marv Albert at an event, and so nice. Talked to him for about 15 minutes. It didn't matter who I was. He just loved the conversation of basketball, and he knew that I knew what I was talking about. And it's just a shame. You expect when you do this in the business, and you're as good as you are, I believe you can do this to the age of 90. You could do this to the age of 100 until you're dead. Marv Albert, he's done so many great things in the sport of basketball, in so many different sports, and I think that calling it quits shows you that he believes that he's ready to move on in his career, ready to move on in his life. And that, to me, shows really who he is as a person, and shows that he is what he is. And he's a god to me. He's a and I'm not saying I'm praying down to him. I'm bowing down to my knees about Marv Albert, but he is a special, special person, not only in my life and what I've done in the broadcasting world, but throughout all the broadcasters in the world that are trying to emulate who you are as a broadcaster. The only person you need to listen to is Marv Albert.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the longest tenured broadcasters of any sport, too. Very creative, like you were saying, with his catchphrases and his sayings, and definitely an influence, especially, obviously, on Kenny Albert, but also, again, on a lot of other broadcasters. And it changed with the times, too. 90s basketball, very different than now, and he still was being very creative. And you see that a lot with longevity. You don't see it a lot. Guys like Doc Emmerich and Vince Scully, who did it for a while, and Marv Albert's definitely in that class too when it comes to basketball. Absolutely illustrious career.
It really is, son. Like I said, he will be missed, and a lot of people have a lot to work on to bring in another Marv Albert type of personality. So it's a shame. Marv, you will be missed. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into the NFL. And I will say this, New York Jet fans, they love what the Jets have done in the draft, and some people love what they did in free agency. But why? I ask you, why are people taking shots at Zach Wilson's mother? That I want to know. So when we come back, we'll get into some New York Jets conversation and New York Giants conversation here on the Weekend Crunch. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I remember this. Juice. Who's ever seen Juice? I love Tupac Shakur. This song, this track, reminds me of that movie. One of the greatest movies of my era. I love it. I can watch it over and over and over again. Remember, you can listen to The Weekend Crunch every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports Team Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Download the Worldwide Sports Radio app by going to iOS, WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Our great articles. You can watch our shows live throughout the week. We have great shows, 18 shows to be exact on our network. And as you know, yours truly and Mr. Speedy Petey are doing a show on our network called The Sports Loudmouths with, yes, Joshua, a.k.a. Rumorville Silverberg. So he's not with us today. Again, he's working and taking care of his mother-in-law, helping her move in. So Josh is no longer with us. I'm just kidding. He's no longer with us today, but he'll be back next week, as everybody will listen to his rumors. No, a lot of rumors that are completely false, by the way. Anyways, let's get into some NFL conversation. I will say this. And we could get into the Jets, and we could talk about what the Jets did in the draft, what they did in the offseason. And right now, I give the Jets an A, what they have done in the draft and what they did in the offseason. They needed to solidify their defensive line. They did that with Lawson. They did that with Curry. They did that with Rankins. Then they needed to solidify their wide receiving core. Well, they brought in Elijah Moore in the draft to help out Denzel Mims and Jamison Crowder and obviously Corey Davis, which they brought in from free agency. And then you look at the running back position. They added Michael Carter, who I think is going to be very elusive and very explosive in a Kyle Shanahan type of offense. And then you look at the cornerback position, which very, very weak. Bringing in Bryce Hall last year, that really showed everybody that he could be a number 2, number 1 type of corner as he gets healthy. But they needed to bring in more. They brought in another Michael Carter. They brought in all these different guys, some free agents. They brought in like 6 corners, and hopefully one of these guys work out on the other side of the ball where the Jets really solidify that secondary for the better. And then Marcus May franchising him and hopefully re-signing him, CJ Mosley coming back. I mean, this team, I don't know if they have enough talent yet to make the playoffs, but they're on the cusp of something special. They really are. And what really annoys me right now with the NFL and social media is the attacks on Zach Wilson's mom. Okay? I understand, and not only Jet fans, other fans. I understand what Craig Carton said and called her hot, and a lot of people were abusing Craig Carton. A lot of women thought that he was being very sexist or something like that, even though he tried to explain that he wasn't trying to be any of that. He just wanted to say that his mother is hot. But ever since then, Zach Wilson isn't the talk of the town. It's Mrs. Wilson. And to me, Mrs. Wilson really wanted to just take a step back. She should take a step back, and I think she has. She got rid of her social media, and I feel that's wrong because this woman should not have to get rid of social media, okay? She shouldn't. To her son, she should be very excited for her son, and I know she's the center of attention because she's a beautiful woman, but who cares? The fact is that her son is playing for the New York Jets. He's the second quarterback in 3 years drafted in the top 3. Top 3, which is the first time in NFL history that's ever happened, okay? And then going into rookie camps and throwing the ball as well as he's thrown the ball. And now you're seeing pictures like all of a sudden a line on social media with him and Elijah Moore hanging out in a restaurant, an Italian restaurant with his father. And to me, it shows you the leadership. And Zach Wilson is a born leader. Everybody that has heard Zach Wilson has reached out to every single player on the offensive side of the ball, really excited and telling them that he is excited to join this team, to be the call shotter up behind the line of scrimmage. And I think that this kid is going to be something special. I really do. I'm not saying that Sam Darnold wasn't special. I'm not saying that Sam Darnold can't be successful. I just think he was a little quiet to play in New York, Speedy.
It's possible. I think Zach Wilson is definitely, like some of our BYU guests are saying, he definitely has that good combining of good leadership, loud leadership, and that flair, that personality that goes in today's game. And again, we always wonder with New York, will the louder guys be better, or will the guys that don't speak a lot be better? And we've seen good mixtures of both succeed and fail in the city. It's a very big wild card because it's such a big city, such a big media market. But I think Wilson has the perfect type. Our BYU guys mentioned it. He can be a quiet leader in the huddle and could be a good leader, but at the same time, he could have that kind of loud flair to his game too, which elevates his teammates, elevates guys like they were saying, the BYU guys were saying that those guys, some of them were draft picks, but it was a lot of walk-ons. It was a lot of new guys, a lot of transfers that he really had to elevate on that 2020 team. And BYU being an independent, they don't get that same level of recruiting. So Wilson definitely has that kind of elevation to his game as a teammate that could definitely be working as a quarterback. And we've seen other guys do it, these young quarterbacks that are coming to the league, do it right away. Whereas previously would have thought of as been raw. And a lot of people think that was Zach Wilson. But I think the new trend really, you can be that kind of quarterback, be raw, and still be okay as a leader.
Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
I didn't think Baker Mayfield's personality was going to work out here in the NFL.
I didn't either. Right.
But it has. It has. The Browns have really rebuilt this team. I think Baker Mayfield is the center stage of this team, and the rebuild process is really built around Baker Mayfield. And I don't know if he was worth that number one pick, but he has gotten better and better and better every single year. And now this is his fourth year, and he's expected to really take this team to higher heights. They made the playoffs last year, almost knocked off the Kansas City Chiefs that made it to the Super Bowl. I think they're going to be a very dangerous team this year. They're as good as any team in the AFC right now. On paper, they're probably more talented than any team in the AFC. So I think that when you look at the big picture and where they are as a team and as an organization, you should be excited. If you're a Cleveland Brown fan, you should be jumping for joy because Baker Mayfield, you talk about the explosiveness of Myles Garrett on the outside and really what they've done with the corner position, really solidified the corner position in this year's draft. I think they're going to be not only explosive and fun to watch, they're going to be very, very dangerous. So very excited to see what the Cleveland Browns are going to do moving forward, Baker Mayfield. But the schedules came out this week, which was very interesting. And I know Jeff took a shot at me on social media and took a shot at me on our Sports Loudmouths. But I think that when you look at the Jets to the Patriots schedule, I think the Jets schedule is a little bit harder. I know they play the same amount of teams. They really do. They practically play the same teams. It's the way the schedule was planned, the way it was built, where it really solidifies and helps out the Patriots more than it helps out the Jets. Who plays the Jets? First of all, what NFL organization, or how about this? Looking at the NFL, do you ever, or would you ever think that the Jets would have to play the Patriots in the first 5 weeks twice? Usually they split up the Jets with the Patriots. They usually play them in week 5 and week 14 or week 13 or week 12. Why are the Jets playing them in week 2 and week 6? It's not right. They're 4 or 5 games split apart from one another. And you have a rookie quarterback, and you know Bill Belichick, Speedy, loves playing against rookie quarterbacks. As a matter of fact, he's never lost against a rookie quarterback.
And he's made all of them look bad for the most part. Look at the rookie of the year last year, Justin Herbert. That was his worst game of the season, was against the Patriots.
It's crazy. It really is. So let's go through. Let's skim down the schedule, Speedy, as we did with the Sports Loudmouths. Game number 1, the Jets and the Panthers. I don't like this game. I would not want to see Sam Darnold in the first game of the season against Zach Wilson, because if Sam Darnold somehow throws 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns with an explosive running game, what are they going to say? What are all the fans going to say to Joe Douglas that didn't want to trade Sam Darnold? Oh, you made a mistake. You shouldn't have drafted Zach Wilson. What are you thinking? You should be fired. We've seen this before. And this really doesn't bode well for the Jets. Now, if Zach Wilson somehow pulls off a win in this game in Carolina, which quite possibly could happen, still, fans are going to be skeptical about their game, because I don't know if they're going to murder the Panthers, and I don't know if they're going to be able to compete in the beginning half of the game, because the Panthers, this is pretty much the same team as they were last year. They're just adding a new quarterback that can make the throws. Mm-hmm. So I don't like that. So game number 1, the Panthers. Game number 2, the Patriots in New York. How could any Jet fan want to sit here and say, you know what, I want to play the Patriots game number 2? The Patriots are a rebuilt team. They're healthy now. They're coming back from COVID-19. Would you be happy, Speedy, playing the Patriots in game number 2?
Not with a rookie quarterback.
I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be jumping for joy. So any Jet fan that actually sits here and tells me that they're excited about this schedule, I'm not. Jets and Broncos game number 3. This is a game that the Jets could win, but it's in Denver. And yes, you said this on the Sports Loudmouths. Well, Zach is used to playing in that climate. He's used to playing with that air the way it is because he comes from Utah. You know what I mean? He plays in Utah. So it might not bother him, but it bothers other players. And other players haven't played in that weather, and other players can't play in that weather. We've heard complaints about that. Tim Tebow had problems when he was over there in Denver breathing. We've heard stories about
Jaguars tight end Tim Tebow.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother story, by the way. But that's a game that's winnable. But who knows? Jets and Titans, game number 4. I know the Titans lost a lot of players, but them going to New York, it's not going to make a difference if they have Derrick Henry. Yes, the Jets are a good run-stopping team, adding Rankins and now Quentin Williams. Quentin Williams is out for 8 to 10 weeks for a broken foot. He'll be just back before the preseason, the 1 or 2 preseason games that the Jets have, and then the season starts. So it's going to take him a while to really get his foot under him. So feet under him on that defense, because he's not going to be doing OTAs. He's not going to be practicing with the team for a while. So that hurts the Jets. That hurts Quentin Williams' development under Robert Saleh. So that's not a good matchup for them either. Jets and Falcons in London. I don't like this game. I don't like flying to London. I don't. I heard that they were going to be one of the teams that was going to play in London this year. I think it's despicable that the NFL would put the Jets as one of those teams. Now, I understand Zach Wilson. He's a big name, and some of the young players that the Jets have that could be superstars in the league moving forward in the future, and they want to bring in some of these new fans out there to be fans of these teams. I'm not happy with this, Speedy. Not at all.
And then they got to combine with the fact that they got to, if they don't trade Julio Jones, face that passing attack with the secondary that the Jets have, that could be a problem too.
It's going to be a huge problem. The Jets and the Patriots, game number 6. You guys know what I feel about this game. I don't care if it's in New England or New York. This close together. Now, if the Jets played them in game number 2 and played the Patriots in week 14, I think the Jets have a chance in one of those games, because I think Zach Wilson will get his feet under him. He'll figure things out. As the game progressively slows down, he will get faster, and he'll be more dangerous in the open field. I don't think this game is a good matchup for them. The Bengals and the Jets are a good matchup. Obviously, Joe Burrows versus Zach Wilson, 2 young quarterbacks, could future be superstar quarterbacks for the league. I still think the Jets are the better team, and being that they're in New York, I think the Jets will have a very good chance of winning that game. Jets and Colts, this is the game that I said on the Sports Loudmouths, even if it's in prime time, it's Thursday Night Football, I think the Jets could win this game. I really do. I think they match up very, very well against the Colts. Carson Wentz, we got to see if he stays healthy all season. If he does, the Colts will be dangerous. But if he doesn't, what are the Colts going to do? Who's their backup quarterback? I don't even know who their backup.
Yeah, they lost Jacoby Brissett. It might be Jacob Eason at this point, who they drafted last year.
Let's go through this quick. Bills and Jets. Not very happy about that matchup. Dolphins and Jets, that could go either way. Jets and Texans, we expect the Jets to win that game even if it's in Texas. Yeah. Eagles and Jets, the Jets don't have a chance because they never beat the Eagles. Right. Saints and Jets, they might have a chance in that game.
Yeah, I think you picked this as an upset too,
yes.
If I remember correctly.
Yes, I don't, and it's in New York, and I don't trust Jameis Winston. So
we know.
I don't trust him or Taysom Hill. So I think the Jets defense will be able to shut them down. I think the Saints are going to be a really bad team this year. Jets and Dolphins could go either way. Jaguars and Jets, I'm looking forward to this game because it's Zach Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence. And if the Jets win this game, it will be very much said, just like the Sam Darnold thing is, the Jacksonville Jaguars picked the wrong quarterback.
I remember what I said on the Sports Loudmouths, too. A lot of the number 1 versus number 2 quarterback battles have favored the number 2 pick with the chip on his shoulder type thing.
Buccaneers and Jets. The Jets don't stand a chance. And then Jets and Bills, who knows? One of those games could go to the Jets. It depends on the development of Zach Wilson and this team when they figure things out as the season progresses.
Buffalo could also be playing backups at that point. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, they're an under 500 team. That's where I see.
Yeah, it. I think we had them both running around 8-9, 7-10, that kind of area for the season. As
far as the Giants are concerned, I know Giant fans weren't very happy with their draft, but they had a very good draft. I really think they did. I know Speedy is a Giant fan, and he thought they were reaching with Tony. I didn't think they were reaching. I think he was a first-round talent. I just don't think they would. I think I would have drafted Elijah Moore before Tony. But again, I could be wrong. A lot of analysts love this kid, Tony. think he's going to be a good player. So anything is quite possible. But the Broncos and the Giants in the game number 1, I think this schedule for the Giants is a winnable schedule. I think the Giants could win 10 games. I really do. And if they win 10 games in this division in a 17-game season, I think the Giants make the playoffs.
Yeah, it depends on how they do in division because the NFC loves to cancel each other out with splitting games, winning games on the road.
But this is a winnable schedule.
Oh, it's a good schedule.
Broncos,
for the Giants,
Washington, Falcons, Saints. I don't trust the Saints. Don't trust.
No, they always struggle against the Saints.
But I don't trust. Look who the quarterback is.
I know, but the Giants, I think, have only beaten the Saints once or something.
Look who the quarterback is. I don't care what they've done. Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Okay, I am not scared of this team. I'm not scared of this quarterback play. So I think the Giants could win that game. I think the Giants could beat Washington any day. Back and forth. I mean, it could go back and forth this year. Right. The Broncos they could beat because they don't know. Now, it could be Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback. And
that changes things.
That changes everything. Right. But if it isn't, I think that it's a winnable game. The Broncos are a winnable game. The Falcons are a winnable game. Yeah. I don't think that their defense cannot stop a lick. And if the Giants have any kind of offense, they're going to be able to compete with the Falcons. The Giants and the Cowboys, that could go either way.
That's a split probably for the year.
Yeah, but these are winnable games. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Giants could go 5-0 in the beginning of the season. They really could. I mean, then their schedule gets a little more interesting. They got the Rams. Interesting game, but it's in New York, and the Rams don't play well in New York.
They played the Rams tough last year.
So, and then the Panthers in New York again. The Panthers don't play well in New York. We've seen them with the Jets. We've seen them with the Giants over the years. They don't play well in New York. Then again, you got the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Not a chance. Raiders and Giants, that could be a winnable game for the Giants.
I think you picked the Raiders, though,
yeah,
if I remember
I did.
correctly. Yeah.
But it's still a winnable game for the Giants.
Absolutely.
Buccaneers and Giants, not a chance. Eagles and Giants could go either way. Dolphins and Giants could go either way. Yep. Chargers, I would say the Chargers and Giants. I would go with Chargers.
If the game is close, the Giants will win. Otherwise, the Chargers will win.
Cowboys and Giants could go either way. Giants and Eagles could go either way. Bears and Giants. I think the Giants match up very well against the Bears. I really do.
That'll be interesting. Both ends of the trade.
And then Washington and the Giants. This is a very winnable schedule. The Giants should win 10 games this year. If they don't win 10 games this year, there's a problem.
Yeah.
A healthy Saquon Barkley, you have all these offensive weapons now that you've added in the offseason. The Kenny Galladay's, you added Tony, you had all these weapons. You still have Evan Ingram there. You still have the Shepherds of the world and the Slaytons of the world. This should be somewhat of an explosive offense.
And now they're trying out Kelvin Benjamin at tight end.
How wonderful. How wonderful. Kelvin Benjamin. And he was a good wide receiver for a couple
He was
years.
decent for probably 2.5 years. Then he had all those weight
Injuries.
issues. Yeah, and then the injuries obviously caught up. I actually don't think it's a bad idea, though, trying him as a tight end, though, because he had not great speed for a receiver, obviously, but for his size, he still had decent speed before the injuries. So when you match him up with other tight ends, he probably still has above average speed, I would say.
It's definitely going to be very, very interesting. But the Jets schedule, I'm not going to bet on it. The Giants, I think it's winnable. I really do. I think the Giants could go 10-7 or 11-6. I think the Giants could absolutely have a good 500 record this year with the schedule that they have. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into some baseball conversation. The New York Mets playing pretty good baseball, and so are the Yankees. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why this team could be a team to be reckoned with moving forward this season here on the Weekend Crunch. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. As you guys know, this is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Mark. My co-host today, Speedy Petey. It's not Joshua Silverberg. He's hanging out with good old mama-in-law Dukes. It's not mama, it's mama-in-law. So he looked miserable last night, by the way. He really did.
I didn't see him much because I was with your friends a lot.
And I'm glad you were, because I don't know what the heck he was doing. I tried to drag him upstairs. Him, Lyle, and Matt, Mark, I think his name was. I think it was Mark.
I don't remember. They were mentioning a friend, Mark, if it was him.
It was Mark. I'm very surprised that they didn't come upstairs and actually have a little bit more fun. I think he was very a little lame there, Joshua Silverberg. Remember, you can listen to the show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports E-Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Well, the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. Where could we start, Speedy? Is there any way you want to start from this to take a shot at the Mets or take a shot at the Yankees, or should we just talk about all the good things we've seen so far?
There's not much to take a shot at with the Mets right now because the Mets have been finally winning close games. They're finally playing well. One thing I will start with, the Matt Harvey ovation. He made his return to Citi Field on Wednesday and got cheers. He got pretty much like 95% cheers, I would say, in that stadium. And I actually was a little surprised. I thought it would be more of a mixed bag. As great as Matt Harvey was for 2.5 years or something before he got hurt, the fall from grace was even just as big. So I'm surprised he didn't get more of a mixture in that case. But again, did very well. 2015 postseason, 2013 he was the All-Star Game starter. So got a good strong ovation. I pitched okay, not great, not bad.
You pitched terrible. 7 earned runs.
Well, yeah, I was about to say he pitched well in the beginning, and then just left him in too long at that point. So,
horrible.
Yeah, so he fell off after that. I mean, obviously the pressure going back to Citi Field, but Mets fans gave him a nice ovation, which was good to see.
Absolutely. And I will say this. The Mets are playing good. There's no question that they have. Lindor's still not hitting. I don't care what anybody says. You're getting paid $341 million, and you're batting .210, .208. That's not good. I don't know what – and I listen to Josh, and Josh makes excuses, and we'll see. There's nothing to see. There really isn't. I know it's early in the season. I still think Lindor could figure things out and still bat .270, .280 as he starts to hit and gets on one of those streaks. Again, I don't know what this team is all about. They fired Chili Davis. I was very surprised they did that. They fired both their hitting coaches. Right. I didn't agree with that early in the season. I think they needed to slowly. If you're going to fire them, you might as well fire the manager and bring in somebody else and let him bring his coaches in, and it would have made more sense. I don't understand why they continuously keep this manager alive. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He's not the guy that they picked. Brodie Van Wagenen was the one who hired this manager. That Sandy didn't hire this manager. I am very surprised that they haven't fired Rojas yet. The Mets are playing better baseball, so they're not going to fire him now. Right. But when the Mets go on a 6 or 7 or 8 game losing streak again, if that happens, you have to start figuring out if this guy's the right guy for the job. If you can win with him, Speedy.
Yeah, I don't think any Mets fan is claiming that Rojas is a world-class manager by any means. I don't think he's probably average at best. But again, he's done a better job this year managing the bullpen, those relief pitchers that a lot of Mets fans were saying trade them now, Diaz, Familia, guys like that. They've started to pitch well, and new guys like Miguel Castro, they found a role in this bullpen. And again, Rojas has done a good job managing the versatility of it. They've lost their best relief pitcher for much of the year so far in Seth Lugo, and they've managed amidst all that. Now, Lugo could come back within the next week or two, maybe, but doing that kind of management
Pete Alonso
in the bullpen,
yeah. Saying Pete Alonso will be back soon, too.
Yep, doing that kind of management in the bullpen will definitely help. In terms of the lineup, maybe there's some questionable decisions, but every manager just has to change it up once in a while if guys aren't hitting. You mentioned Lindor not hitting. So far, they haven't moved him down yet in the lineup, and I don't think they will at this point. I think they would have done it already if that was the case, but they did it with McNeil, and McNeil's finally starting to hit again. He just got hurt now. He's out of the lineup today, but he started to hit since they were moving him around in different spots, and now there's a contemplation, should they leave him lead off and stuff like that. Again, McNeil will be comfortable again in that leadoff spot once again at some point. Same thing with Conforto. They moved him down. He started to hit. So I think Rojas has done some good things. I'm not going to call him a world-class manager, but I think his job is at least safe for now.
And I think these teams are going to get better as it gets warmer out. It's getting warm. As today, it was 70-something degrees, almost 80 degrees. It's going to get warmer. The ball's going to start to elevate more, and you're going to see more home runs. I really do believe that. And as far as the New York Yankees are concerned, I almost said Jets, but the New York Yankees are concerned, I think that when you look at the Yankees as an organization, and they started off really bad. This was the worst start in their team's history since 1993. 93 was the last time, or 92 was the last time the New York Yankees lost as many games early in the season and had the record that they had. They were in last place. They were the worst team in baseball for the first 2 weeks of baseball. And I knew that this wasn't the same Yankee team. I think everybody knew that wasn't the same Yankee team. And they're starting to play better baseball. Aaron Judge hasn't been hitting the ball except home runs, and that's a huge problem for the Yankees moving forward. But Giancarlo's hitting the ball. He's hitting for average. He's hitting for power. DJ LeMahieu is starting to hit. Losing Gleyber Torres is a huge loss, Speed. And Garrett Cole, to me, is very, very exciting to watch. He really is. And he's, to me, the second best pitcher in baseball right behind Jacob deGrom. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Garrett Cole so far has pitched like an AL Cy Young candidate. Probably him and Tyler Glasnow, if you were judging right now, as probably the two best pitchers in the American League performance-wise. And in terms of
Could you believe that? Yeah. Tyler Glass, who they got from, it was just an add-on player from Pittsburgh. Nobody would have thought he was going to be anything. And this guy becomes one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Yeah, and the Pirates have brought him up at times and he never developed over there. He was a top prospect for a while with them, and then, like you were saying, he kind of fell off in terms of the overall level. But we all knew he had the potential still, and leave it to the race to develop him. But going back to the Yankees,
Can't stand watching that kid.
The lineup has to get a little more well-rounded, I think. They've had guys hit at certain points, but like you were saying with Glaber, once he started hitting finally, now he has COVID, so now it's going to hinder him again potentially.
It's terrible.
Yeah, just when he started to get hot a little bit. DJ LeMahieu started to hit well, but again, the Yankees, and a lot of Yankee fans have been complaining about this, they have to get a more well-rounded lineup and stop striking out as much as they have, and it still has hindered them into the season as well. That's usually their problem more in the playoffs more than anything else, but it's hit them in the regular season. Same thing I was saying with the Mets a lot, with the situational hitting. The Mets have finally turned the corner with that this week, at least, but will they keep it up all season? The Yankees still haven't found that kind of thing yet to a consistent extent, with the exception of the Astros series, where they did a very good job.
I think the Yankees are going to be fine, especially in the division that they are. You're going to be playing Baltimore a ton of times. Right. They're playing Baltimore this weekend. They won last night with Gio Urshela. Came off the bench and hit a go-ahead 3-run home run. So Gio Urshela has played great baseball since the Yankees brought him from the Cleveland Indians when he was a free agent. He has been everything and many things that they expected a third baseman to be. If you remember, Miguel Andujar was their third baseman 2 years ago. Miguel Andujar just got called up, and he's starting to hit the ball, but he's no longer a third baseman. They're not going to take it away from Gio Urshela. He's one of the most talented defensive third basemen in all of baseball. How many players could you say could defend that side of the plate as well as him?
I would say only Nolan Arenado and Matt Chapman.
That's about it. Yeah. So, I mean, this guy is as good a defensive player as anybody. And plus, he hits for power. I mean, last year he hit over 20 home runs. In that position, you wanted your guy to hit 30 to 40 home runs. But if he hits 25, 26 home runs in 162 games and gives you about 80 or 90 RBIs and you can play defense the way he has over the years, I think that you can do with that. I think you could deal with that. And I think it's very exciting to see that these teams are starting to pick up their pace and play better. The Yankees are 21-17. The Mets 19-13. So both teams are figuring things out. Both of them, I believe, have the two best pitchers in baseball.
Yeah.
I think the Yankees have the best pitcher in the American League, and I think the Mets have the best pitcher in the National League.
I would say so, too. I mean, both of them have had great strikeout numbers, great ERA numbers to start the year. DeGrom's velocity has even gotten higher from where he was at different points in his career so far, which is crazy to think for a guy that's over 30 years old now. And Garrett Cole, kind of the same thing, really reinvented his game.
He's still young.
And yeah, he's still young, and not a down year last year, a down year maybe for his standards, what he was doing with the Astros, and now has finally pitched like the pitcher that he was supposed to be.
Listen to these numbers, you ready? Mm-hmm. This year in 2021, he has five wins, 1 loss, 1.37 ERA. Innings pitched 52.2. Okay, that's a lot in 6 games. 78 strikeouts and a whip under 1, 0.684. That, to me, is the Cy Young winner right now in the American League. There's nobody in the American League pitching that dominantly than Garrett Cole. Now, Garrett Cole got $325 million from the New York Yankees. And I know a lot of people say, the Yankees bought him. He was drafted by the Yankees. If everybody doesn't remember, the Yankees drafted him in the first round, I think in 2008. And then he decided to go back to college. And they lost his draft stock. And then he went back into the draft 3 years later and was drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in the first round, which he would have been a Yankee. He would have stayed a Yankee. He'd still be a Yankee right now. I don't know if he'd be as dominant, but why not? He's been dominant now. So he's got the stuff. He's got all the ability in the world. 6'4", 220 pounds. Special player. He really is. And you talk about Jacob deGrom, you talk about a guy like Garrett Cole. Who's better than these two guys? There's nobody. I would love to see these guys. I can't wait until these two pitch against one another. Yeah. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
Hopefully the Subway Series schedule the way it is ends up that way. It always changes, though, with the All-Star break. I forget when they are exactly this season because I don't think they're split. I think they're split apart, not the close-together interleague play like we're used to with the Subway Series especially. But, yeah, these are definitely the two best pitchers in baseball, no doubt about that.
Watch out for the Cardinals, ladies and gentlemen. I've told you guys this over and over again. This is the team. They're the best team in the National League, hands down right now. There's nobody better than them. You're watching Nolan Arenado smash the ball. You have Paul Goldschmidt on the other side who's smashing the ball. This lineup is deadly throughout from 1 all the way to 8 or 7, whatever you want to say it. I mean, this is a great lineup, and they have their pitching staff. There's nothing that really stands out in their pitching staff, but they're very consistent.
Flaherty's pitched very well, though, too.
No, he's their best pitcher.
Yeah.
But besides him, they don't have any consistency. There's no big names on this team that you can say, wow, I love this guy. I mean, there's nobody on this team besides Flaherty that you could say, if I were to trade away one of my top prospects, who would I want? The only person you would say was Flaherty.
Right.
You know, I think it's pretty amazing. And this is a very good organization, very well-run organization, very well-oiled machine. If you remember, the Astros sued the Cardinals, fired the GM and fired the president of the Cardinals for stealing information from the Houston Astros. You guys remember that a couple of years ago? Who's laughing to the bank right now? Who's laughing to the bank right now?
Not the Astros, because they cheated.
And all of those guys are gone. All of them. And right now, the Cardinals are laughing to the bank because the Cardinals are still one of the top teams in baseball, very consistent. And the Astros, where are they? Nowhere. Okay, so, and they're not winning nothing.
You're talking about the Yankees not having a losing season for a while. When was the last one the Cardinals had? I think it was like 2005 or something like that.
It's unbelievable. It is really impressive when you talk about the Cardinals and what they have done and adding Nolan Arenado in the offseason. You earlier was talking about Lindor. Lindor hasn't done nothing, $340 million player. Nolan Arenado, I think, has 7 home runs. He's batting close to 300. He's hitting for power. He's been unbelievable. And he's the best defensive third baseman in baseball. It's not even a question. There's nobody going to argue that.
And the Rockies gave the Cardinals $50 million just to have him.
Practically gave him away. Just like the Marlins gave the Yankees Giancarlo Stanton. Here you go. Here's the MVP of the league. And now you're seeing if Giancarlo Stanton stays healthy, and he stays healthy all season long just as a DH, this guy's going to be an MVP candidate every single year. I'm telling you right now, this guy can hit 40 home runs. He's going to hit you 120, 130 RBIs. How many players in the American League can do that? And the answer is not many, maybe 2. This is a guy that could be up for an MVP every single, and he's in the prime of his career. He's 30 years old. He still has another 4 or 5 good years left, and he's close to 500 home runs already. Right. I mean, it's crazy. This guy could break the Griffey home run record. And I'm not going to say Barry Bonds because a lot of people won't put him there. The Hank Aaron record. That's how good he is. That's how much power he has. So he's not far off. He's 300 or 200 and some home runs off of that? Mm-hmm. That's 4 years, 5 years of baseball.
All depend on longevity.
So, I mean, Yankee fans, stop throwing balls at him. Stop booing him when he goes up to the plate. It's ridiculous. Let's go look at Giancarlo Stanton's numbers before we go to break. I just want to make it apparent that you fans understand how cool and how good this guy is. Giancarlo Stanton, he's batting .282. He has 9 home runs and 24 RBIs in 20 games.
Yeah, you're laughing at those numbers? Yeah, okay.
9 home runs, .282. Now, he's a career .250 hitter.
Right.
.282. That means he's hitting for average, too. He has 9 home runs and 24 RBIs.
He's hitting for average when the league average is down.
Let's look at Mike Trout. I just want to show you. Mike Trout is everybody's, and Mike Trout has amazing numbers, by the way.
Yes, he does.
Average, 342, 8 home runs, 18 RBIs, and 22 runs. Now, besides the average, who's having a better season?
Stanton.
Giancarlo Stanton is having a better season. He's not hitting for average like Mike Trout, but who is? I mean, who's as good as Mike Trout when it comes to hitting and putting contact on the ball? Nobody.
Right.
Okay, so you can't really argue that. But all-around game, I'm telling you right now, Giancarlo Stanton right now, if the season were to end, he is the MVP of the American League. No question that he is. So that tells you that all you Yankee fans don't realize that the Yankees have one of the best players in the American League, and you're booing him. That tells you, Yankee fans, that you need to sometimes zipper and button your mouth and just realize how special of some of the players that you have on your team. And they're finally figuring things out as a Yankee. It took a couple of years, but now I think the Yankees realize this guy, if we could put him in as the DH the whole season long, he doesn't have to do much running. He doesn't have to do much diving. He's never going to get hurt.
Right.
So he's gonna be in a lineup every single day, which gives you a bat with power every single day, consistency. So when we come back, ladies and gentlemen, NHL playoffs are here. That's right. I've said it again. NHL playoffs are here, and there is one New York team heading there, and that is the Islanders. Not the Rangers, not the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Barry Trotz, Lou Lamoriello Islanders. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you why the Islanders have more than a better chance of winning a Stanley Cup this year than they did last year. And they went to the Eastern Conference Championship. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why they could win. Here on the Weekend Crunch. Little old school. Huh. No Josh here. Nope. Not a loud mouth. Not the guy that spreads rumors. I love you, Josh. I know you'll be back next week spreading all the rumors in the world. Hopefully not spreading any rumors on me and Speedy, because I don't want to deal with it. That's for sure. As you guys know, this is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks. My co-host today, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time. Only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network. Brought to you by New York Sports Team Magazine and the World Wide Sports Radio Network. I'm not dancing. I'm not styling, profiling, and I'm not Rick Flair. I was about to say Rick Ross.
You're not him either, so.
I'm not barking. I just bark. By the way, Rick Ross has a new track out right now. You guys got to check it out. I like some hip hop. Rick Ross has that flair that really drives me to listen to his music. I think him barking in the beginning of the rap is something that definitely electrifies me to listen to his music. So, and I use the word electrifying.
Is him barking a tribute to Snoop Dogg?
No, but Snoop Dogg doesn't bark.
I know, that was a joke.
He barks. He goes, "Ruff." Each of these rappers have their own tailspin of their intros to their music. DJ Khaled says, "We the best." Yeah, we the best. I would be the best, too, if I had a couple of $1 million cutting up people's music and putting my own music to it. So there you go. Anyways, remember, check out our Worldwide Sports Radio app by going to iOS, WWSRN, or Android Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Check out our stories. Watch our shows. 18 shows live on our network throughout the week. And the Wise Guys will be back this week, so that'll be interesting, as they believe they're the best of the best. So
one of those Wise Guys, a huge Packer fan, right in the midst of all these Aaron Rodgers trade rumors.
Well, he's not going to be very happy when that happens, because he's not going to be a Green Bay Packer, that's for sure. But we're not going to talk about football right now. We're going to go into some hockey. And New York hockey is back in the playoffs. And I'm not talking about the Rangers, who just squeaks in and plays Carolina and gets swept last year. No. We're talking about the Eastern Conference New York Islanders that went to the championship last year against the world champions, the NHL champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So going into the playoffs, I know a lot of Islander fans are not excited because, let's be honest, they're not healthy. They're not playing good hockey. But the same thing happened last year before COVID. The Islanders they were barely squeaking into the playoffs. A lot of people thought they were going to probably not make the playoffs if COVID-19 didn't come. And then they went into the playoffs. They went through the Washington Capitals. They went through all the teams they had to go through, all the way to the Stanley Cup Eastern Conference Championship. And they got knocked out, and they played a very good series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, they lost 4-2, but they could have won a bunch of these games. They were in every single game against the Tampa Bay Lightning except one game. I think they gave up 6 goals in that one game.
Game 1.
Besides that, they were in every single game in that series. And if the Islanders made Stanley Cup Finals, it could have went either way. I mean, they played Dallas. Dallas is not even making the playoffs this year. So
they had a nice comeback to get to that point that they did after a really bad middle of the season. But nope, they just missed out. Nashville is in the 4th spot in that, and they will be taking on Carolina.
So the Dallas Stars didn't even make the playoffs this year, and they were in the Stanley Cup Finals. So what would that have told you?
Patrick Turner now?
Yeah, we should get Patrick on the show. I would like to hear Patrick's take on it. But to me, this is a team that's better than they were last year. They added Zajac. They added Palmieri to their offense. They did lose Anders Lee, but I think they're still trying to figure out what the lines are going to be in the playoffs. Barry Trotz is still a world-renowned and, I believe, the best coach in all of hockey, and nobody can argue that. Who's better than Barry Trotz? I mean, seriously. He took a team that was one of the worst defensive teams in hockey to the number 1 defense, the number 2 defense in all of hockey in 1 year. Look what Tom Thibodeau did with the Knicks. He went from 32-1. That just doesn't happen unless you're a good coach. So the Knicks have one of the best coaches in the NBA. And to me, Barry Trotz is the best coach in the NHL. So to look at their team and what they are, they need to find some help for Matthew Barzal. I know Oliver Wahlstrom. They move Oliver Wahlstrom to his line. Oliver Wahlstrom is going to be a stud. We all know that's what he's going to be. He's still 19 years old. He's still figuring things out. It's going to take a year or two. How long did it take Matthew Barzal to figure things out? Until he was like 2021, until he really figured out what he was as a player. He's more of a facilitator. You put Oliver Walsham, who's a closer, is a finisher, he's a sniper, on that line, you could be seeing Magic for many, many years to come on that line. Remember, when you talk about Matthew Barzal, he's only 22 years old. And Oliver Walsham's 19. They're 3 years apart. These guys could be playing for years to come on the same line. And Pajot, who I do believe adding Palmieri and all these other guys, they haven't looked good yet. But I think Pajot is a playoff player. He's a big game player. And we saw that in last year's playoffs. He was one of the leading scorers in the NHL last year. I want to see him take that to the next level again this year. They're going to have to against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Because as good as the Penguins are offensively, and they were the number one seed coming out of the Eastern Division, they have so many weaknesses. They are not a good goaltending team. And their defense is skeptic. They're not as good as everybody thinks they are. Now, they have some good players, and obviously Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, who's a very special player. This might be the last year you see these two guys play on the same team. Because if they don't get out of this round, are they going to really keep these guys together? They haven't won. They haven't got out of the first round. I don't remember the last time they got out of the first round.
2018, and then they lost in the second round against Washington, who went on to win the Cup that year.
They're a better team than they were last year, but they're not that good of a team. And I think they're definitely a beatable team. And the Islanders match up very, very well against them. I don't think they match up against Washington right now the way they're playing. And they don't match up very well against Boston, who, by the way, Hall, I don't know what happened to that guy, but he gets traded and he's back to an MVP candidate. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Nobody
All the
wants to
Islander
play for
fans,
Buffalo.
It doesn't make any sense. How many times did we hear, and we heard this from Josh, he's overrated. He goes to Boston. I mean, he scored 10 goals in like 5 games. Who's better than Paul right now?
He's the best player of random spurts in different instances in his career.
It's unbelievable.
One of those early with Edmonton. Then he had the Hart Trophy year with the Devils, which I still don't think he should have won the Hart Trophy, but he still had a great year.
50 goals.
Yeah, he still had a great year, and then now he's doing it with Boston again. In the playoffs, he's been up and down in his career, but again, when he's hot, and he's showing it now since coming to the Bruins, and that could give him an edge against a Capitals team that they've had random first-round losses too. Even though they won the Stanley Cup, they've still had their more share of duds themselves.
It's a joke. I think when you look at the big picture and you look at both these teams, and you have to understand where the Islanders are as a team and where the Pittsburgh Penguins are as a team, the Islanders are set up to win now. They're young. They're still a very young team, one of the youngest teams in the NHL. Yep. I think they're the 7th or 8th youngest team in all of hockey. But nevertheless, they're built to win now. You added Palmieri, you added Zajac, and they added a defenseman, too, in the middle of the trade deadline as well. So with the way they're built, Lou Lamoriello wants to see a championship sooner than later. And that's why he made that trade for Palmieri. They gave up another first-round draft pick. They don't have a first round again this year. Now, they didn't give up a second, too, but they gave up a first, and they gave up some money. So I look at the ability of the Islanders going into this personal round. And let's say they lose in the first round. That was a terrible trade. If you think about it. Now, Palmieri, they're going to re-sign Palmieri. I really do believe that. I think Palmieri, they wouldn't have traded a first-round draft pick for Palmieri if they weren't going to sign him. So I believe, and I've been hearing they're going to probably re-sign Zajac and try to move Casey Cizikas' contract next year and move Zajac to the center of that line. They're going to keep Martin. They'll bring Martin back. Clutterbuck still has another year on his contract.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to be very hard to trade.
So they're going to have to keep somebody as the center of that line. So I think Cizikas will be gone next year. And they could get something back significantly. Maybe a second-round pick for Cizikas after losing a first. Cizikas is one of the best fourth-line centers in all of hockey. So you put him, you trade him somewhere like the Toronto Maple Leafs that need something like that, or even the New York Rangers would love to have a Casey Cizikas, a mean guy that could give you about 14.
I don't know if the Rangers have the salary to take on that kind of thing right now.
What is it, $3 million?
No, I think it's more than that for Cizikas. I think it's more in the 4.5 range or something like that for Cizikas. So I don't know if the Rangers are going to be the team to take that on. But yeah, you're right. Definitely one of the better fourth-line centers in the league for a contending team would definitely be a big help, and a team that can obviously take on that money.
Florida's another team that would look at him because they need a fourth-line center. There's just so many teams. Chicago Blackhawks would love Casey Cizikas. So the Islanders can get something back for Casey. I'm not telling you that that's what the Islanders are thinking about doing. I'm not Lou Lamoriello. I'm not sitting over there. I would love to be a fly on his wall, but I don't know what he's thinking in his head. But right now, it would be a big disappointment if the Islanders get eliminated in the first round against the Pittsburgh Penguins, because this team was built to win now. and making a trade like that and giving up another top prospect for a guy like Palmieri, you were expecting this team to go even farther than they were in the Eastern Conference Championship last year. Yeah. And they're a better team than they were last year, even without Anders Lee.
Yeah, Palmieri's going to give an edge leadership-wise, at least, even if he doesn't show it statistically, because he has a lot of playoff experience with the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks were just certainly underwhelming in some years, but they made the Western Conference Finals a lot. I don't think Palmieri was on the Cup team. I think he was still in the system at that point, but I think he's still part of the team that went to a lot of Western Conference Finals, and he plays physically, and I think that playoff intensity will show once Barry trots his teams. They love to hit. You'll see it more in the playoffs in those type of series against the Penguins, who are a smaller team, and I agree with you. I think we'll get to our picks in a bit, but the Penguins' playoff identity has not been as good as we've seen in years past. The last 3 years, they lost last year against a Montreal team they had no business losing to. That was the worst team talent-wise in the expanded 12-team playoffs, but they had no business losing to that team. The year before, they got swept by the Islanders, and the year before, they lost to the Capitals, like I said, after beating the Flyers, I think barely, when they were a way better team than the Flyers. So the Penguins' playoff identity has not been the same since the two Cups, and I definitely agree with you. If they lose again, I can see Malkin getting traded because he has been very injury-prone.
Yep. And I think also the coach getting fired.
Mike Sullivan.
I know his daughter is dating the defenseman for the Boston Bruins, McAvoy from Long Beach, because I know they hang out over there at the rinks over there. So it's going to be interesting. So why don't we go through our picks, Speedy? Let's go and discuss what we think is going to happen in the first round. Go ahead.
All right, so the first we'll start in the East. You have the Islanders winning, and how many games?
I have the Islanders winning in 5.
I have it winning in 6. I think the Penguins will have one scoring outburst, and that's it. All right, Washington and Boston.
That's going to be a great series. I'm going to have Boston in that series. And I think Boston, Tyler Hall, the power and the ability that this team has, and really the goal scoring that they have on consistent lines. Now it's not just about one line. Everybody talks about how great their first line is. How about their second line with Taylor Hall? So I'm going to go with Boston 4-2.
I'm going to go with Boston. I'm going to go with Boston in 7. I think this will be a very physical series. I'm waiting for the Tom Wilson-Brad Marchand fight. Oh, I think there could be a couple of those, too, because they're not going to the Bruins are not going to be one of those teams that are going to just take him lightly. And the physicality with both teams will break out. But the Capitals, they struggle in Game 7. So I'm going to take the Bruins in a very intense 7-game series. All right, on the other end of that bracket, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators.
I got Carolina in the game, in the series. I think Carolina hopefully is going to play better in the playoffs. Rob Brind'Amour, that's looking for another big contract. A lot of people say that the Rangers are interested in him if he doesn't get re-signed with the Carolina Hurricanes. I think he is going to get signed, and I think he's going to prove himself in this series. I've got Carolina in this series in 7.
I'm going to take them pretty easily in that because I don't think Nashville's that good. I think Nashville, since they fired Laviolette, John Hines is not a good coach. Their offensive depth has not been the same. And even their goaltending, Saros came back later in the season and played better, but was not as consistent as it should have been for having him and them and Rene. I'm going to take Hurricanes in 5. All right, the Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning, Battle of Florida.
Florida Panthers and Tampa Bay Lightning. I've got Tampa in a very close series because Florida is an explosive team. They proved it. It could be an upset, too. I think Florida could definitely upset them as well. But I got Tampa. I think they're the champions. They have the most depth defensively, and I think going into the playoffs, they have the most depth defensively throughout the playoffs. So Tampa, I will say in 7.
If Kucherov wasn't coming back, I probably would have taken the upset with Florida because of Joel Quenneville, his playoff experience. But I'm going to take Tampa as well because I don't think Florida has enough defense. Bobrovsky's up and down in the playoffs, but no Ekblad is really going to hurt the Panthers. So I'm going to take the Lightning in 6. You're right, though. They did play well head-to-head against the Lightning in the regular season. All right, to Canada now. The Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, this is an easy series. Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid's going to splash, and this is the year. If they have any chance of getting to the Stanley Cup Finals because it's so open in the West, it's this year. I got Connor McDavid exploding off the paper and off your sheets this year in the playoffs. So Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers win this series 4-2.
I think the winner of this series will be at the other series for sure, but I'm going to go the opposite. I'll take Winnipeg in this one. I trust Hellebuck as a goaltender a lot more than I trust Mikko Koskinen. The Oilers' defense has been better, but still not great. But Winnipeg's defense has been surprisingly good this year. We thought they might lose a lot, losing Trouba, no Bufflin, but they've actually been pretty good, and they're physical too, better coach. So I'm going to take Winnipeg in 6. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, well, You know where I'm going with this.
I know, and I think I agree with you.
I'm going with the Montreal Canadiens. Carey Price, a healthy Carey Price. I think he's one of the most underrated goaltenders of all time. When healthy, who's better than Carey Price? He's a sensational goaltender that also plays very well in the playoffs when he is healthy. So, and what Montreal's done this year has been absolutely sensational. They're an explosive team. They play very good defense, team defense, and they have great goaltending. I got Montreal in this series. 7 games against the John Tavares, Bull Dinky Toronto Maple Leafs.
I completely agree. I'm going Montreal in 7 as well. I think Carey Price definitely will steal some games. Some of the young offensive players will play well. And the Leafs, despite having this great regular season, will crumble under pressure as usual. And I think they'll get shut out in Game 7 like they did last year. All right, to the West Division, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild.
That's going to be a fun series. It really is. A hard-hitting series. Both teams like to hit. I got the Vegas Knights. They're the most talented team, especially in the West over there. And they're explosive. Defensively, offensively, goaltending. You have Lerner there. I mean, what are their weaknesses? I mean, a lot of people are going to pick them to win the Stanley Cup again this year. I got the Vegas Knights. I would say 4-1. I'm
actually going to go opposite again. I'm going to take Minnesota. I think what Minnesota's done this year has been very impressive. This is a team that had to travel so much to the West Coast, and they were hanging tough with Colorado and Vegas all year, points-wise. And I think this is a very differently coached team, gritty team, and Vegas has had their duds, even though they went to the Cup, obviously, in their first year. They've had some duds at the same time. They've had some collapses where they haven't looked as good either. There's always one that is weird, and this is where I think it comes. I'm going to take Minnesota.
Interesting.
And then Colorado, St. Louis.
Oh, my God. Give me a break. This is going to be the best series of all the first round. 2 teams that are explosive, 2 teams that are expected to be Stanley Cup contending teams. Really, I'm very surprised. But I got Colorado in this series. They're young. They're fast. Their ability. I think this is the year when they're going to knock off a Stanley Cup championship team, and it could go all the way. Give me Colorado in this series, 4-3.
I got Colorado as well. The Blues with Binnington have just not been the same team. Even defensively, they've had a lot of issues in comparison to previous years. Colorado, they have questionable goaltending for sure, but they got Grubauer, even Hunter Miska's played well in the second half of the season. They were my pick at the start of the year to win it all. I'm going to stick with it.
And to me, it's so interesting. I don't know who my pick is. Who did I pick in the beginning of the year?
I think you had Vegas again.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember who you had in the East.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Did I pick the Lightning again?
No, you were actually on the bandwagon that they would not repeat. I remember you arguing with Josh about that.
Mm-hmm. They're not going to repeat, by the way.
Yeah, I don't. It wasn't Boston. I actually don't remember. Might have been Carolina. I don't remember.
It was Carolina.
Okay, so you had Vegas, Carolina. I had Colorado, Carolina. So
yes.
That's interesting.
It's interesting. I don't know if Carolina's going to even make it. I think if the Islanders get hot, I'm not saying this as an Islander fan. I think the Islanders can do it.
I'm actually a little worried about the pick because they're both 1 seeds now, so usually that doesn't happen in the NHL playoffs. But I got to stick with it because that's what I had at the start of the year. I
have this feeling about the Islanders this year. I know a lot of fans want the Islanders to lose, but there's just something about this game in this series and throughout the playoffs where I think the Islanders are going to really explode and show people why they're one of the best defensive teams in all of hockey. I really do believe. I believe in them. I believe that this could be the year. So don't be surprised if the Islanders make it to the Stanley Cup. I didn't say they're going to win, but I think they can come out of the East. I think they match up very well.
I have them coming out of the East, so I could see that, especially if they play Washington again, who they have a lot of familiarity with.
Mm-hmm. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, Speedy, what do we got?
The Beat Wars.
Here on the Weekend Crunch.
I'm going to go Ned.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to some house music with Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports Team Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Download the Worldwide Sports Radio app, iOS, WWSRN, and Android Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Guys, we have great articles. Check out articles every single week. They're great. They're sensational. Our shows, 18 shows in all throughout the network. So it's great. It really is. We're very happy to be here to support what we do here in in New York and throughout the country, because we talk all sports. And now all our shows are not from New York, by the way. We have shows all over the country. Cincinnati, we have some shows from Florida, we have some shows from San Diego, Georgia. I mean, they're all over the place. So definitely tune in and listen to us. We really love to entertain people, and we are the voices of digital sports radio. So, Speedy, what do we got?
Debate Wars.
Oh,
now here
God.
comes the greatest drop of all time.
This is the Debate Hour. And now in this corner, your host, Errol Mars. And in this corner, who gives a
Josh hates that.
Yeah, so did Eric.
You gotta start playing that.
I'd love
You
to.
got to. You
All
got
right,
to.
all righty.
It's not the right English. Not got to. You have to. Okay.
All right.
You have to. Because I love to piss him off.
The
It
greatest
bothers
drop
the hell out of him.
in Worldwide Sports Radio Network history.
Here we go.
All right, here we go. We'll start in the NFL. Better cornerback in his time, Brent Grimes or Antonio Cromartie?
Antonio Cromartie, not even a question. Brett Grimes, he has his woman talk for him and speak for him. How many times? And this guy, he played for Miami. He's too small. I was never a big fan of Brett Grimes. He was a Pro Bowl, all-pro player with the Chargers. He came to the Jets. He was a big part of their secondary. So I've got Antonio Cromartie, hands down, not even an argument.
I got Antonio Cromartie as well. I think he just had better longevity than Grimes did. You're right. As a smaller corner, it was very hard for Grimes to have that kind of longevity once he got to Miami. He was very good with Atlanta for a while, up until probably the 2014 season. But Cromartie was even good with Arizona after he left the Jets, too. He had 2 good years with there. Then he went back to the Jets in that 2015 season and was very, very good as well. So I think in terms of the longevity of Cromartie, him being a smaller corner too, but I think that really makes a difference as a whole as well in him being a little better than Grimes. Better Indians pitcher at his peak, Cliff Lee or CC Sabathia?
Cliff Lee. I mean, Cliff Lee for like 3 years was by far the best pitcher in baseball. Now, CC Sabathia, he was a great lefty. He went to the Yankees, was dominant with the Yankees as well as he was dominant with Milwaukee when he won the Cy Young. I understand that. Cliff Lee, for like 3-4 years, was there anybody even close to him? And to me, strikeout. He didn't throw hard. He was very elusive. Could throw the changer, could throw the curve, could throw the slurve. He did everything. I love the fact that he didn't want to go to the big teams like the Yankees. He wanted to do it in a way that he wanted to do it. And I thought that Cliff Lee, in the 3, 4, 5 years that he was the dominant pitcher, he was the better pitcher.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go Cliff Lee as well. I think CC Sabathia obviously had better longevity,
yes.
but Cliff Lee's peak, I think, was very strong. He was very good with a lot of different teams. Him getting traded as much as he was with the Phillies.
He wouldn't go to the Yankees. He didn't want to get traded.
Yeah, he didn't go to the Yankees because of his girlfriend or something like that. I forget what it was. But yeah, he wouldn't go to the Yankees. But with Texas, with the Mariners, that's once or half a season he was there, he was very good too. And with the Rangers, he was a big part of the postseason. Now, he didn't win a World Series, unfortunately. He was on 2 World Series losing teams, but he still was a big playoff pitcher. I think him being able to do different things with his off-speed stuff, wasn't a hard thrower at the time.
Never was.
And he really did a lot of different things in an era of baseball where it seemed like throwing hard was the way to go.
He was special.
I think at his peak he was definitely better.
Borderline Hall of Famer.
I think
I
think his lack of longevity could keep him out.
That's it.
Especially with the way baseball writers, they're the stingiest writers of any Hall of Fame committee. So I think that's going to make it very hard for him to get in. But he definitely was worthy.
I mean, who was better than him in the 5-year stint that he was dominant? Not many.
Yeah,
not many.
Not many. Probably only like Verlander and Kershaw. That was really it.
He was dominant.
Right. All right. Better. Let's go to hockey now. Better coach so far in their career, Claude Julien or Peter Laviolette?
Oh, give me a break. Peter Laviolette. I mean, look everywhere he's gone, they've won. Everywhere he's gone, he's changed a team, an organization from top to bottom in just 1 year. Everywhere. Predators, they were all the way in the Stanley Cup Finals. This guy knew how to win. The Islanders made a big mistake when they let him go. And you've seen, every time he becomes a free agent, within a year he has another job. It's nobody should fire this guy. Yeah, he has up and down years here and there, but all in all, he's one of the greatest and one of the best coaches in our era in the NHL. So Peter Laviolette.
I'm going to go Laviolette as well. Doing it with different teams, too, I think makes a difference. Julien
Consistency.
did it with one. Julien did it with 2 teams, essentially, with Montreal, but again, they didn't go all the way with Montreal, whereas Laviolette went to the Cup with Nashville and won the Cup with Carolina. And both those teams being expansion franchises, Carolina, especially at the time, were coming from the Whalers, where they were rebuilding a lot of the time for the first 8 years of their franchise. And then Nashville, too. When he came to Nashville, they were a good team. They weren't a great team, and they made them a great team for a while. And now now all of a sudden they get rid of him, and look at the difference, and then they barely squeak into the playoffs or in the Central Division where, like we said earlier, I still think they're going to get destroyed by Carolina. So I agree with you. I am going to go with Laviolette. All right, let's go to the NBA now. Better big man in his time, Carlos Boozer or Derek Coleman?
Derek Coleman. Carlos Boozer, as good as he was at some points of his career, when he was on Cleveland, he stunk. And then when he went to the Jazz, he was better, I guess.
Yes, he was.
He was better. Derek Coleman was a part of those 76er teams with Allen Iverson. He was, to me, when he was healthy, Derek Coleman was a great player. Carlos Boozer was never a great player. And when he went to the All-Star game, I was always wondering why he would make the All-Star game. He wasn't one of those dominant power forwards like we see now, like the Julius Randles that can do everything, or even the Anthony Davises or the Greek Freak. He's not one of those players. Carlos Boozer was a highly overrated player who I think came from Duke, and I'm saying that as a Duke fan, okay? I never liked Carlos Boozer. So I'm going to go with Derek Coleman.
I'm going to go with Coleman, too, because I think his value to that Nets team was definitely stronger. Defensively was a lot better than Boozer was. I didn't think Boozer was necessarily overrated with Utah. I thought he still was a good player, but I don't. You're right. With Cleveland, he wasn't the same, and he really only was good for a smaller stretch in time, even though their scoring numbers were very similar. Coleman had a very good defensive prowess on a team that, again, was with Jason Kidd, and with the backcourt that they had was much more that oriented type of team where he really held down the fort in the middle. Which 2020-21 championship team is most likely to repeat, and why? So the Lakers, the Lightning, the LA Dodgers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who is most likely to repeat?
The Lakers. You have LeBron James. If you have a healthy LeBron James and a healthy Anthony Davis, and now you have Drummond, and then you have Schroeder coming back, and with the depth that they have on the bench, who's going to beat him in the Western Conference? The only team that could beat him is in the Eastern Conference is the Brooklyn Nets, and I don't even think the Brooklyn Nets could beat them in a 7-game series. There's too much depth. So I think it's the Lakers, none of those other teams.
I'm going to take the Dodgers. I think they're still loaded as it is. I think in baseball,
it's harder.
Baseball, it's definitely hard to repeat, but we've also seen teams do stretches where they win. Obviously, like the Giants, the Cardinals have definitely had those. The Yankees, obviously, in the 90s had that. Where we've seen it where football has a little more parity, especially in the NFC. The Lakers, I'm still a little worried about with Anthony Davis, the way he comes back. They've struggled down the stretch, and I think the play-in series, if they have to play in the play-in series, it could affect them with the extra games. So even though I think they'll win, I don't think they'll have no problem beating whoever they play. I think they'll have some trouble. The Lightning, it's definitely hard to repeat in the NHL for sure. So I think the Dodgers have the best chance of any. I wouldn't pick them to do so, but if I were to pick one team, I would take the LA Dodgers. Alrighty, let's go back to baseball. Who was a better manager in his managerial career, Clint Hurdle or Ned Yost?
Clint Hurdle, Ned Yost. I'm going to go with Ned Yost. Kansas City, I mean, they won a World Series with Ned Yost, and even though Ned is gone, and I think he's retired, I think he just retired, yes. I think Ned really solidified what the Kansas City Royals needed. They needed a manager that was a player's manager that would push them to that next level, play defense. They were a great defensive team. They were the best defensive team in baseball for 5 years. Yeah. I'm going to go with Ned Yost.
I'm going to go with Ned Yost as well. This is actually very close because I think Hurdle took some worse teams to do well in the playoffs, yes. But the way Ned Yost managed those teams are still very creative. What he did with the Royals, especially with all the base runners, the pinch runners, the clutch hitting that they had. Even with the Brewers, too. Even though that Brewers team was very good, he did a lot of different things with those bottom-of-the-lineup type guys, those relievers he was very creative with. And again, even with the Royals, too, that bullpen, Wade Davis was a starter before that. Calvin Herrera was not really a great known commodity. And Greg Holland, they moved from a closer to reliever once Wade Davis did, and he subbed in just fine. So I think the creativity that what he did made that end up working. Clint Hurdle was very good at that with the Pirates, too, to an extent, with a team that wasn't very talented on paper. But Ned Yost did it for the World Series and did it a little more creatively. All right, one more. Better MVP season by a running quarterback, Cam Newton in 2015 or Lamar Jackson 2 years ago?
Oh, Cam Newton. What Cam Newton did in 2015 was fantastic. And by the way, he went to the Super Bowl. He lost against the great Peyton Manning. I know Peyton Manning didn't play well, but he also played against that great defense in Von Miller and the explosiveness of that defense of the Broncos. Lamar Jackson, he won the MVP, and what did he get? He got knocked out in the first round. He doesn't win the big game. I look at the whole big picture. Not when you give somebody MVP, yes, it's the MVP of the season, but I also look at what he does in his first round, and then I really solidify where I think these guys are going to be. Cam Newton went all the way to the Super Bowl. So That was a fantastic season for Cam Newton. One of the greatest seasons we've ever seen a running quarterback ever have. So I'm going to go with Cam Newton.
I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson for two reasons. One of which, he was very close. He had 1,000 yards, and he was very close to breaking the single-season rushing record from Randall Cunningham. And I think that's very hard to do in today's game where teams are now trying to protect their quarterbacks. And Lamar Jackson, he's still running at will for the most part. Not that Cam Newton didn't in that kind of year. He still was fantastic. But Cam Newton in his MVP year, 636 yards in comparison to Lamar Jackson, who had over 1,000. And Cam Newton had more touchdowns, but I think Lamar Jackson doing it, still rushing the way he did. And I think the schedule that the Ravens had last year was a lot harder, playing in the NFC West, which is very tough. Their division has always been tough with good defenses, too. Even though Cleveland was a little down, they still were very good, whereas the Panthers got to play the NFC East that year, which was terrible. I remember that. I think Washington made the playoffs at 9-7 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And their division, their defenses in their division, the Saints, the Bucks, they weren't that good either. So I think that it was a little harder for Lamar Jackson, the competition he had to face. So I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson, and that will conclude today's Debate Wars.
Debate Wars. I mean, we should have Rick Ross do a little barking for you. Debate Wars.
Well, if you could get Rick Ross to do a drop
I don't think I could. I would have to pay him a lot of money.
Yeah, I was going to say that. If you could get Rick Ross to do a drop for us, that would be impressive.
Oh, that would be impressive. But listen to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. It's terrible. That's terrible, Rick Ross impersonation. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, the final segment of the week, Speedy.
Crunch time.
Here on the Weekend Crunch. Redman, ladies and gentlemen, Long Island native. I know you guys know he is. CI, baby. That's right. What? Speedy, I hung out with Memphis Man and Redman a couple of years ago. Two guys you definitely want to hang out with, that's for sure. Party animals. As you guys know, this is the Weekend Crunch. I'm your host, Errol Marks, and this week, my co-host, the tighty whitey man himself, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Saturday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on 103.9, the LI News Radio Network, brought to you by New York Sports Team Magazine and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, brought to you by the Worldwide app. How do you do that? You go to WWSRN. That's on iOS, and on Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can check out all our shows, 18 shows to be exact, on our network throughout the week live. And you can read all our articles, watch our clips that Speedy puts all his time in. Guys, if you like sports, you'll love us. If you like this show, you'll love that. We have a show called the Sports Loudmouths on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. So definitely tune in, be tuned in, and listen to the show. By the way, WFN has a new director coming in for Mark Chernoff, Speeder. I call you Speeder because you are our Speeder. Spike Eskin is going to be taking over for Mark Chernoff in June. Shout out to Spike Eskin, young guy in his 30s, in his mid-30s, that's finally going to get his opportunity to come to a big place. And he worked in Philadelphia. I'm not saying that's not a big place, but coming here to New York, this is the mothership. This is everything. This is the godfather of sports, and he's taking over. A mid-30-year-old kid taking over for WFN is a big news for New York sports. So shout out to Spike Eskins. That's big news. Speedy, what do we got for the final segment of the week? Crunch time.
It's time for Crunch Time.
Read the time. Gotta see the pitch.
All right, we're on the LI News Radio Network, which broadcasts the New York Islanders. So we'll start with the New York Islanders in the playoffs. Buy or sell. The Islanders will score 4 or more goals in Game 1 tomorrow against the Penguins.
I'm going to buy it. I think the Islanders have a lot to prove in this series. I think a lot of people are counting them out because of the ending of their season. Lost 2 games against the Sabres. And everybody says, watch out for the Islanders. They're going to fall apart. I got the Islanders. I think the Islanders will win. They'll score 4 goals. I think they'll score 4 goals in Game 1, so I'm going to buy it.
I'm going to buy it, too. I think they score 4 goals and maybe even get an empty net goal because the Penguins' goaltending situation still is iffy. Tristan Jarry's played well, but, again, it still is – he's the first time in the playoffs, I think, or is one of the few times in the playoffs for him. So it's going to be very hard unless he has some kind of Matt Murray-like run like he did in 2016, who came out of nowhere against, of course, my New York Rangers and decided to – make every big save imaginable in that, leading to their first of their back-to-back Stanley Cups. But I don't know if I necessarily could trust that again with Jarry. I will buy it as well. All right, buy or sell. Albert Pujols will re-sign with the Cardinals and play for them again.
Interesting. I'm going to sell that. I don't think he's coming back. I think he's done enough. I think he's proven enough. He's the greatest right-handed hitter we've ever seen in our era. You can argue him and Vladimir Guerrero are the two best. So I'm going to sell that. It's not going to happen.
I'm going to buy it. I think eventually later in the season, once the rosters expand, I could see the Cardinals try to bring him back in anticipation of that. It's obviously the best player in their recent history, like you said, one of the best right-handed hitters I've ever seen, and tremendous leader. And these ex-Cardinals players, they want him back. I think the Cardinals fans are going to want him back. And Pujols doesn't really want to retire. That was a big part of why he was mad at the Angels for getting rid of him. He changed his mind. He announced that he was retiring at the beginning of the season. Then all of a sudden he changed his mind, saying, I don't want to retire, but they still waived him anyway. So I think he is going to want to play somewhere, and I think the Cardinals will give him that shot. Whether it's all season or not, I don't know, but I think they will give him a shot at some point. All right, buy or sell. The Celtics or the Lakers will lose in the play-in series if they end up there. The Celtics will either play the Hornets or the Pacers.
The Celtics will. I think the Celtics aren't any good. They lost Brown for the season. I'm not a big fan of Jaylen Brown, but he is an all-star. He's proven himself to be an all-star this year. They don't have him. And who do they got? They have no bench. They have no size. They have no nothing. They can't rebound. They can't out-rebound any of these teams. You need to be a rebounding team in the playoffs, especially the Eastern Conference. You got to be a gritty team if you expect to compete with some of the high-flying teams. I am going to buy that the Celtics get knocked off in the play-in game.
I'm going to sell it. If it was the Wizards in one of those spots, the 8 or 9 seed, I would pick the Wizards to win because the Wizards have played great basketball at the last month of the season. Russell Westbrook played like the best player in basketball the last month or so. But
by the way, Snowman doesn't think so.
Of course he doesn't, because Snowman thinks Tom Chambers is better than LeBron James. But okay.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Yeah. So I'm going to sell it. I think they would have lost to the Wizards, and the Lakers the same thing. I don't think they're going to lose to either the Warriors or the Grizzlies. I don't trust the Hornets or the Pacers to beat the Celtics, as vulnerable as the Celtics may be.
What is it? What is this love fest with these people with Steph Curry? What makes Steph Curry better than Russell Westbrook? I mean, seriously. I mean, Russell Westbrook does everything good. It's not just one thing. He does everything good. And he broke a record that nobody thought was ever going to be broken. And you know what Snowman told me the other day? The wrong person broke that record. Why is he the wrong person? Because he's not Steph Curry shooting threes all the time. How about that? The record that Steph Curry broke, more three-pointers in a season, is a useless record compared to a triple-double. What would you rather break? A triple-double record?
A triple-double is way more impressive, especially for a point guard. It's not like it's a forward or a center breaking the triple-double record. It was Wilt Chamberlain for a while.
He's on drugs.
Obviously, Oscar Robertson did it, which made Oscar Robertson's record pretty much unbeatable at the time. And we see Russell Westbrook do it. That's insane. So, Snowman, if you want to see Steph Curry get 10 rebounds in any season or any game, I'd love to see him do that with his size. Yeah, okay.
No, it's not going to happen. And by the way, Russell Westbrook is not that much bigger than Steph Curry. Steph Curry's 6'3". How big is Russell Westbrook?
6'5", I think.
6'5"?
Yeah.
2 inches? That's so much bigger, by the way.
Yeah, okay. All right, buy or sell. The new Jacksonville Jaguars tight end Tim Tebow will have at least 2 receiving touchdowns.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I think he's going to make the team. I really do. I know a lot of the coaches are not very happy that he has been brought as a tight end because it really takes away the greatness of Trevor Lawrence and trying to take the spotlight. I think this is good for Trevor Lawrence, but I do believe he'll have 2 touchdowns. I do believe he'll have 1 for sure, so I'm going to buy that.
I'm going to sell it. I think he has 2 total touchdowns. Like, I think he could get a rushing touchdown, and maybe they could even have him as a wildcat quarterback here and there. But receiving touchdowns, I think there's just too much talent around them with ETN now, with Robinson, with Chark and Chenault, if they're healthy, with those young receivers that they have. And Trevor Lawrence really didn't use the tight ends much when he was at Clemson, so I think it'll be tougher for him to evolve. I think total touchdowns, I could see it. I'm not going to say with receiving touchdowns in total, though. All right, buy or sell. There will be more than 1 sweep in round 1 of the NHL playoffs.
No sweeps. I don't think there's any sweeps in the first round of the playoffs. I think all teams are going to find a way to win a game. Nobody's going to get swept in the first round. That's what I'm going to see. So I'm going to sell that.
I'm going to sell it, too. I think the only team that has a shot to get a sweep is Carolina over Nashville. I think the other series are just too close because, one, the Canadian division I don't think is that good. The East division, those 2 series will both be pretty intense. And right. I think even in the West, too, with the Blues are going to hang tough. The Wild I have winning, and Vegas is going to hang tough no matter what. So the only one I really see as being a sweep is maybe Carolina over Nashville, but definitely not multiple. All right, buy or sell. Corbin Burns will get to 80 or more strikeouts before his first walk. He broke the record with 58 now.
I say yes. I'm going to buy it. I think he will. Why not? I mean, the guy's been another guy that's been very dominant. If you want to argue, Jacob deGrom, then Burns. I mean, those two guys have been the best in the National League. And in the American League, it's Cole and Glass. It's pretty amazing. What Burns is doing, I would even give the Cy Young to Burns this year. I really would. If he continues doing what he's doing, how could you not? How many guys do you know that could go with 80 or more strikeouts without consistently giving up a walk? That's pretty amazing.
It is insane.
It really is.
Not even Jacob deGrom has done that this year.
It's pretty amazing.
It is insane.
I'm going to buy that.
I'm going to buy it too. Yeah, I'm going to buy it too. I think it's going to continue for at least maybe 2 or 3 more starts. I'd love to see if he could get to 100 with that. That would be one of the most unbreakable things if he could get to 100. That's going to be a lot of pressure to do that, but I definitely think he gets to 80. That's 2 more starts worthy, probably maybe even 3, depending on how many strikeouts he ends up getting, but I absolutely agree with that. All right, buy or sell. The New York Knicks will win their first playoff series no matter who they play.
I'm going to buy. I think they could beat Milwaukee. I think they could beat Atlanta. I don't think there's any chance they're going to be playing Miami. It's going to be very slight. And if they play Miami, I don't think they beat Miami in the first round because I think the Knicks need to get their feet under them. And Miami being the experience that they have, and it's the same team pretty much that went to the Eastern Conference Championship and the championship last year, they have experience. I'm gonna buy whoever they play in the first round besides Miami. They're going to beat.
I'm going to sell it. I think they'll beat Atlanta, but I'm not sure about the rest. I think it's kind of like the same thing I said with the Nets. I think they can expose Milwaukee to an extent if they play them. I don't know if they necessarily beat them because I still think on paper they still have more depth and more star power, obviously, with Giannis. And Budenholzer's a very good coach, too. I can't see them just folding.
Has Giannis been more of a star this year than Julius Randle?
His numbers are still very strong, though, and he is an MVP candidate. So it's probably close between them. No, it's definitely close between them. I'm just going to sell it on that front. I think they definitely beat Atlanta because Atlanta doesn't have enough defense, I think.
Do they really have more depth than the Knicks, too? I don't think so.
On paper, they do. It's just some of it has been down this year.
That's what I mean.
And also getting P.J. Tucker, I think, is definitely going to help them defensively as well, getting them at the trade deadline. So, again, I'm a little worried about them, but I still think they beat the Knicks. I think Miami, if they play, like you were saying, I think they will play the Knicks. They'll beat the Knicks, too. Atlanta's the one team that I think the Knicks will definitely beat for sure. All right, buy or sell. Kelvin Benjamin will make the Giants roster as a tight end at the start of the season.
I'm going to buy it because I don't trust Evan Ingram, Mr. Pot Hands himself, who doesn't like to catch the ball against the Eagles ever. So I don't know what he is, and I don't think he was worth a first-round draft pick. As everybody knows, when Cooks was sitting there, they could have drafted him, and look how good Cooks is right now in Minnesota, one of the best running backs and high-flying running backs in all of football. Big mistake by the Giants.
Yeah.
But they have Saquon Barkley. We'll see what Saquon does this year. So I am going to buy that.
Well, they wouldn't have had to draft Saquon if they actually were smart and drafted Cook like they should have at number 23. Instead, they drafted, like you were saying, Pot Hands. I'm actually going to buy it as well. I think it's going to be tough, obviously, also signing Kyle Rudolph for him to get onto it. But again, receiving depth.
I forgot it. They signed Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, but again, I think whether he's labeled as a tight end or a receiver, I think they're going to embrace it because Dave Gettleman drafted him in Carolina in 2014. He had, like we were saying earlier, he had 2.5 really good years with Carolina. He was a rookie of the year type candidate. Obviously, Odell Beckham had the great rookie year that he did, so he wasn't going to win it. But in a lot of other years, he could have won it too. And I think they'll embrace that. I think he just is a counter to what they have. Very similar to Kenny Golladay in some areas with his size, but I think he's a very good counter to the rest of the other platoon type receivers, smaller slot type receivers that they have. So I think they will. I think he will make the roster. Whether he stays on it the whole year, I'm not sure, but I think he will make it initially. So I will also buy that. All right, one more. Somebody other than Gerard Gallant or Mark Messier will coach the New York Rangers.
The only one is Torts. I can't see Brind'Amour. I know everybody keeps saying, well, they're waiting for Brind'Amour to decide where he's going. He's staying with Carolina. Come on, guys. Carolina is built. They're built to win now. Why would he go to the Rangers? He's going to make a lot of money over there in Carolina. Why would he go to a Ranger team that needs to be rebuilt? They're 3 years away, the Rangers, to be even a contender. So I told you guys. What did I tell you, Speedy? The Rangers are 5 years from being a contender. That was 2 years ago. And I'm going to say it again. They're 3 years away from being a contender. They don't have no defense. They got Fox and maybe Miller. Maybe Miller. We don't even know. And I don't want to hear about old-timer that they gave so much money to, and you know what I'm talking about. They overpay players. It just, to me, the Rangers are in a lot of trouble. And they need, the first thing they need to think, and the second and the third thing they need to think about in the draft this year, defense. Everything. Draft, defense. That's it. You don't need any offensive players.
So you're buying it? Mm-hmm. It'll be Gallant or Messier. I agree with you. I'm going to buy it as well. I think these rumors are too strong. I don't know if the Rangers are really the ones to throw out the smoke screens. They're too big of names.
It's going to be Messier.
I think they're too big of names to have that kind of reputation. And I think it's going to be one of these guys. I think Gallant does want to coach again, like Josh has been mentioning. I think he's itching to get back after he got strangely fired by Vegas. Not that Peter DeBoer's a bad coach, but the timing of it was definitely strange firing him. So I think he's itching to coach again, and the Rangers will definitely give him that chance. Or Messier, obviously, being embraced by that organization for what he did winning in 1994.
It needs to be him. I'm telling you, if the Rangers want to win, and I'm going to say this to all you Ranger fans, and you need to send letters to James Dolan, send something to Glenn Sather. This is the guy. This is the guy that brought you home a championship in 1994. He was the reason why they won the Stanley Cup. He has been wanting this job for years. And the fact that the Rangers haven't given it to him is a mockery, okay? You're going to bring Quinn in, and you're going to think that he's going to be better than Mark Messier? I understand Mark Messier has never coached before. He's a hockey player, okay? He knows the game. He knows defenses. He knows how to read offenses. He knows how to do all that stuff. He'll bring the right coaching staff in to help him out. Bring in the guy that solidified and put you back on the map in 1994. That's Mark Messier. That's 100% sure. I don't want to hear with this Gallant thing, the Torts thing. Bring the guy in. Bring the real Ranger in. Bring the guy that really solidified what the Rangers are as an organization. Am I right or wrong, Speedy?
No, I'm not. I wouldn't mind that. It wouldn't be my top choice. Would be Messier, but again, it's an unknown. Like we were saying with any other inexperienced manager, you have to give them somewhat of a chance. Just because they're unknown doesn't make them bad. And again, Messier's very smart. He's very experienced.
What is it going to? First of all, you brought in John Davidson. You gave him a job for a year and a half, and then you fired him.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's a guy that has been a GM and a successful GM all over the league, and he was a Ranger, okay? Yep. So if you're going to fire him, you might as well bring in Mark Messier and let this guy prove that he can do this and win this job and win the fans, because I think he'll win the fans.
Oh, I did definitely.
The fans will love him. Yeah. The fans will love him. I'm telling you. You want to talk about the talk of the town? On the NHL Network, all they'll be talking about is the Rangers. Mark Messier is loved. He's beloved throughout the league. I'm telling you.
He'll definitely be embraced by the fans. I can't see any fans really giving him a hard time.
Even the Islander fans will love Mark Messier. I mean, Mark Messier is a familiar face in hockey. He was a guy. So,
oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'm going with the guy. I'm going with your guy. I don't understand Ranger fans. I really don't. Oh, I want Claude Gallant because he did what he did with Vegas. What makes you so sure he can do it in New York? Okay? New York is different. It's a different beast. Barry Trotz, he fit the New York culture. He preaches defense, 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 defense. Gallant, he is more of an offensive strategist. You're bringing in another offensive strategist, a.k.a. Quinn, who was an offensive strategist in college hockey in Boston, and now all of a sudden you're gonna bring it. Now, I'm not saying Mark Messier is a defensive-minded coach, and I don't think
we don't know what he is.
We don't know what he is, but he's going to bring in the right guys that's going to fit the culture on what he wants to bring to the New York Rangers. Bring in the unknown. Why are the Rangers bringing in these guys that have been successful? It doesn't mean they're going to be successful in New York. Right or wrong, Speedy?
Yeah, no, there's no guarantee with any unknown like that, for sure. And Messier, again, he's going to be embraced by the fans no matter what. He could handle New York.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think he should be fine with the media in terms of that aspect of it.
Oh, you mean it? He'll love it.
Yeah.
He'll love it. Are you kidding me? The media will love him. Could you imagine Mark Messier after a loss going up to the thing? Mark Messier, whenever he guarantees wins, he guarantees this, he guarantees that. Mark Messier is not afraid of anything. I think he's the perfect fit for the Rangers. I'm actually rooting for the Rangers to pick Mark Messier. I can't stand the Rangers, all right? Because I think Mark Messier is the perfect fit. And I want to stick it to Josh when it happens. Because he's, Claude Gallant, I told you. Yeah, I told you. Yeah, bring in another coach, a well-known coach that fails again for the New York Rangers. How many coaches have they brought in that were successful on other teams have been failures for the Rangers in the last couple of years? 3 coaches. 3 coaches. I'm not talking about Quinn. Before Quinn. Every other coach before Quinn were successful coaches everywhere else. Were they successful here? The answer is no. Okay, so what does that tell you? I don't know. It tells me that the Rangers are a bunch of fools, and you have a coach that's been wanting this job for years, and you just said, you know what, I don't want him. He's Mark Messier. I don't want him. Stupid. That's all I can say. That's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. Joshua, I hope you're okay. I hope your mother-in-law is okay. I hope you're enjoying yourself and your wonderful Saturday, missing the wonderful show of the Weekend Crunch. Anyways, that's it for our show. Speedy, do you have anything to say before we go?
Yes, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the NHL playoffs. Best playoffs all the time. Intense. Enjoy them no matter who you're rooting for. Just enjoy the NHL playoffs. Enjoy your weekend,
Spank
everybody.
Speedy.
And
Spank
thank
Speedy.
you for listening. No, do not spank me.
Spank them, ladies and gentlemen.
Do not
We'll
spank
spank
me.
them over and over and over again. Thank you to all the fans that listen to us on 103.9. Thank you to 103.9 for letting us put out our personalities and show off our sports knowledge here always, every single week on the Weekend Crunch. Good night, everybody.